My name is Sloane Avery, 18 years old. The evening the truth came for us, the house smelled like peppered pot roast and floor cleaner. Dad asked if my allowance was enough, casual as weather talk, and I laughed without meaning to. What allowance? I said, and the words snapped the room in half. Dad's fork hovered midair. Mom stopped chewing. Somewhere behind them, the kitchen clock ticked like a metronome set to panic. What do you mean, what allowance? Dad's voice thinned like air at the top of a staircase. I glanced between them. I don't get one. I've been at the market since I was 14. I lifted a shoulder, trying to keep things normal. Gas isn't free? Mom set her fork down so gently the tines barely clicked the plate. Honey, your father has been transferring $200 to you every month since you were 12. She said it like an obvious fact, like gravity. I pulled out my phone. My banking app opened to a number that looked like a joke, $1,100. This is 4 months of 20-hour weeks, I said, turning the screen. No mysterious 200s. Dad's color drained in stages, white to gray, gray to a damp green. He stood so fast his chair shoved back and kissed the wall. Hold on. He disappeared into his office, the room we weren't supposed to enter because it was for work, which meant it held the things that scared him. In the quiet, the roast cooled. Mom swallowed, throat working. Maybe it's the app, she said softly. The clock insisted. Tick, tick. Drawers in Dad's office started a frantic percussion. Open, slam, paper shuffle, metallic rasp. He returned with a thick folder, papers splaying like wings as he set it down, knocking the salt shaker onto its side. A tiny mountain spilled, white as his face. Look, he said, stabbing at the lines. 200, every month, two. Sloane Avery Chen. He blinked. What? My name curled around a stranger's. I leaned in. Dad, that's not my account number. The paper blurred at the edges. I focused on the last 4 digits. They weren't mine. They weren't anything I knew. Silence dilated until the clock felt too loud. Mom slid the statement next to my phone, eyes flicking back and forth like a tennis match. Graham, she whispered, these numbers don't match. Dad sat down like someone had unplugged him. That's impossible. I set it up. I went into the branch myself. I told them her college savings account. My mouth went dry. The paper smelled faintly of toner and something older, dustier. Whose account is getting it? I asked, but it sounded like someone else speaking. We're calling the bank, Dad said. He didn't wait for morning. He didn't wait for logic. He called the after-hours line, navigated the robotic tree with shaking hands, insisted emergency, insisted supervisor. The hold music was a cheerful piano that made my skin itch. Finally, this is Patricia. How may I assist? Dad exhaled like he'd been underwater. He told the story once, then again slower. I could hear Patricia's typing through the line. Mr. Avery, she said, I've located the destination account. The funds have been going to an account under the name Sloane Avery Chen. The account holder of record is Evelyn Avery, opened 2018. The room shrank. Mom's name sat there like a landmine we'd been eating dinner on. Dad stared at her. Mom stood so carefully the chair didn't scrape. I can explain, she whispered, and somewhere in that whisper was the sound of a door thinking about closing. Explain what? Dad asked. The words scuffed his throat on their way out. Mom's eyes flitted to her purse hooked over the chair. She grabbed it, keys chiming. I need to make a phone call. Now? I said. She didn't answer. The front door opened, then slammed. One clean syllable, final as a judge's gavel. A beat later, her car engine. Then taillights sliding away across our window like 2 red eyes turning. We stood in the leftover noise. Clock, refrigerator hum, my pulse, and that's when I saw it. A manila envelope had dropped from her purse and skated under a chair. My name was written on it in Mom's tidy schoolteacher script. Not Sloane Avery, Sloane Chen. The letters were careful, like she'd practiced. I pulled it free. The flap wasn't sealed. Inside, a baby photo lay on top. Me, pink-faced and scowling, cradled not by Evelyn, not by any face I knew, but by a young woman with tired, luminous eyes. On the back, in the same careful hand, a note. Sloane's first mother. Goodbye for now. Dad's hand landed on my shoulder, heavy and shaking. Who is that woman? His breath blew cold on my cheek. I didn't answer. The envelope had more. legal paper that rasped when you turned it, hospital forms that listed mother, Naomi Chen, father, unknown. There were dates, codes, signatures, a notarized adoption finalized at 3 months. Something in me split, not broken, not yet, but like an old seam revealing the stitches. Dad, I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. This says I was adopted. He took the paper and read like he could will the letters into rearranging. His lips moved. No, he said, but the word was a ghost. I was there when you were born. He looked at the baby photo again, then away quickly, as if light hurt. The envelope gave up more, a letter on soft stationery, creased from being opened and opened again. My dearest Sloane, it began, and the rest of the room went hush. I know this must be confusing, but the woman you call Mom has been sending me updates about you for years. She promised that when you turned 18, we could finally meet. The account she set up was my way of contributing to your life from a distance. I've been sending what I could, $200 each month, even when it meant another night shift. I love you. Naomi. My name in her hand curved like a bridge I hadn't known was there. I pressed my thumb to the ink. It smudged slightly. Dad took the letter, read, then lowered it like it weighed more than the folder. Did you know? I asked. The question sat between us like a glass of water nobody wanted to touch. He swallowed. Yes, he said finally, and the honesty was both a blade and a balm. Your mother, Evelyn, asked me not to tell you. She said it would confuse things. She said we'd tell you when it was time. He spread his hands, as if time were something you could measure with a ruler and we had simply miscounted. I looked at the papers, the baby, the note that said goodbye for now, as if love were a warehouse with hours posted on the door. And the money? I asked. Did you know about the money? His mouth trembled. I thought it was going to your college account. That's what she said. He glanced at the knocked-over salt and, for a strange second, started brushing it into a little pile with his fingertips, as if neatness could erase anything. A car turned into the driveway and killed its engine. The front door opened. Mom stepped in with the face she wore for PTA meetings, composed, precise, as if emotion were something you learned to enunciate. Her eyes took in the papers, the photo, the letter soft with fingerprints. How long? I asked. My voice surprised me. Steady, the sound you use when you cut a straight line. It's not stealing, she said, though no one had named it yet. It was always meant for you. I kept it safe. Then where is it? Dad's question was a small explosion. She hesitated. In the pause, I could hear the clock again. We needed it, she said finally. The house, the car, tuition gaps. You don't know what it costs to keep a life standing. The room went spare and bright, like winter light after snow. I set the baby photo on the table carefully. Her tired eyes, my tiny fist. Her name is Naomi, I said. The name felt like a key finding its lock. She has been paying my allowance, I guess. I just never got to spend it. Mom's face went blotchy. She is a stranger, she said. I am your mother. I have too, I said, and heard how new and old it sounded at once. One who raised me, one who wrote goodbye on the back of a photograph and still found a way to say hello. I touched the letter again, the smudge now a small, dark petal. She's been waiting for 18 years. Dad sat, finally, as if his bones had been negotiating. He looked at Mom. Evelyn, did you set up that account in her name? Did you tell Naomi you were saving it for Sloane? Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. The clock counted. Somewhere outside, a dog barked, like a timer going off. When she spoke, it was not an explanation so much as a confession running out of breath. I made sure everyone knew Sloane was okay, she said. I made sure no one could take her away. No one was trying, I said, though I didn't know if it was true. All I knew was that love had been moving toward me in small deposits, and somewhere along the way, it had been diverted. On the table, the manila envelope lay open-mouthed, waiting to release the next thing that would change us. I reached in and felt more paper, thicker, official, with a stamp raised like a scar. Dad saw it too. He reached, then stopped, hand hovering, like he was about to touch a hot stove. I slid the document free, and the heading shouted in stark type, Final Decree of Adoption. My name appeared twice, once as Avery, once as Chen. And for the first time in my life, I realized I had been two people all along. The night after Mom's confession, the house felt like an abandoned museum, quiet, but full of things that once meant something. Dad sat in the living room with the letter spread across his knees, the TV on mute. I hovered by the window, watching the neighbor's porch light blink on and off, like the world outside still followed normal routines. Mom had locked herself in the bedroom hours ago. Every sound from behind that door, the click of a drawer, the creak of the floor, sounded like a decision being made without us. I couldn't stop staring at the signature on that letter, Naomi Chen. The way she'd written it, steady, small, deliberate, felt like someone who still hoped to be believed. Dad finally spoke. I think you should call her. The word startled me. What? You deserve to know who she is. His voice cracked. And I think she deserves to hear your voice. I pulled the letter closer. At the bottom was a phone number, written in blue ink that had bled slightly into the paper fibers. I imagined her hand shaking as she wrote it. My thumb hovered over my phone's keypad. For a moment, I hesitated. Half terrified she wouldn't answer, half terrified she would. Then I pressed call. It only rang once. Hello? Her voice was soft, careful, like stepping into shallow water after years of drought. Naomi, I said. A sharp inhale on the other end. Sloane? It was my name, but gentler. She said it the way someone might handle a fragile thing they hadn't touched in years. Yes, I could barely get the word out. It's me. Oh my God, she whispered. You're okay? You're safe? I sank into a chair. Yeah, I'm okay. I found your letter. She made a sound, half laugh, half sob. I didn't think this day would ever come. Her voice carried warmth and guilt all at once. I pictured her in some small apartment, sitting by a phone she probably stared at every night, wondering if this was the call that would change her life. I've been trying to reach you for years, she said. I didn't know how. I thought your mom was helping me. I swallowed hard. She wasn't. Silence stretched, full of things we didn't know how to say. I'm so sorry, Naomi whispered. I thought I was contributing to your college fund. She told me you were thriving, that you needed help with tuition. I sent money every month because I wanted to be part of your life, even if it was from far away. Her voice trembled. Do you know how much $200 is when you're cleaning offices at night? I closed my eyes. I do now. She laughed softly through her tears. You sound like me, even your tone. When I was your age, people said I sounded like I was apologizing for taking up space. Something inside me cracked open. I don't even know what to ask first, I said. Ask anything, she replied. Why did you give me up? There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, steadying herself. I didn't want to. I was 17, living in a shelter after my parents kicked me out. You came early, barely 34 weeks. The social worker said you needed medical care I couldn't afford. They promised it was temporary custody, just until you were stronger. I gripped the phone tighter. Temporary. I signed the papers thinking I could visit. They said I'd get updates, but every time I called, they said the family had moved, or that I wasn't allowed to contact you. Her voice broke. I called every week for 3 months until they stopped answering. The clock ticked behind me, same one that marked every lie at dinner. 6 years ago, Naomi continued, your adoptive mother reached out. She said you were doing well, that you were smart and beautiful, but you could use some extra support. She promised she'd send me photos of your birthdays, your school plays. She never did. Naomi's breath caught. She kept everything? She spent it on the house, on tuition, on me, but not in the way you meant. A tiny whimper escaped her throat. All those nights scrubbing floors, thinking I was helping you. I pressed my hand against my chest as if I could hold her pain there for her. You did help me, I said quietly, just not how you thought. She let out a shaky laugh. Do you think we could meet? The question landed like sunlight after too long indoors. Yes, I said before I could think. I live about 4 hours north in a town called Brookhaven. There's a cafe off the highway, the Wobbly Mug. It's ridiculous, but it's where I imagined meeting you someday. The Wobbly Mug, I repeated, smiling through tears. Saturday? Saturday, she whispered. Noon. You'll know me. I look like you, only older and worse at eyeliner. That made me laugh. I'll find you. When I hung up, the silence in the house felt different. Less heavy, more expectant. Dad was watching me. She sounds kind, he said softly. She is. He nodded, eyes damp. Your mother's going to have a hard time with this. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, that's not my problem anymore. I spent the rest of the night reading the letter again and again. I traced the ink smudge near her name where a tear had fallen, maybe years ago. Upstairs, I heard Mom moving around, her footsteps pacing, drawers opening. At one point, I heard the closet door slam. then quiet. The next morning, she was gone when I came downstairs. No note. Just her coffee mug sitting in the sink, a faint ring of lipstick on the rim. Dad sighed. She's avoiding this. Maybe she should. He looked at me with that tired half smile. You have her stubbornness. Saturday came fast. The drive north felt endless. The closer we got, the smaller the towns became. Gas stations, thrift stores, old diners with fading neon signs. When we finally pulled into the cafe's gravel lot, my hands were slick with sweat. Do you want me to come in? Dad asked. I shook my head. I need to do this alone. He nodded. I'll wait out here. The bell above the cafe door jingled as I stepped inside. The air smelled like espresso and rain on wood. And then I saw her. Naomi sat in the corner booth, hands wrapped around a chipped mug. Her hair was the same deep brown as mine, streaked with silver. When she looked up and saw me, her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled instantly. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. You're real. I didn't even realize I'd started crying until I felt the warmth on my cheeks. I crossed the room, and she stood up at the same time, nearly knocking over her mug. We hugged, awkward at first, then tighter, longer, until I could feel her heartbeat against mine. You look just like your grandmother, she murmured. Same eyes, same chin. You sound like me, I said, laughing through tears. We sat for hours. She told me about her life, how she worked at a veterinary clinic by day and cleaned offices by night, how she'd remarried once but never stopped thinking about me, how every birthday she baked a cupcake, lit a candle, and whispered my name before blowing it out. I told her about my childhood, my school, the market job, my dad's terrible jokes. She listened like each word was a gift. At one point, she reached into her bag and pulled out a box wrapped in floral paper. Inside were cards, 18 of them, one for every birthday she'd missed. I kept writing, she said, just in case you ever came. I touched the first one. On the envelope was written, for Sloane's first birthday. My brave little light. My throat tightened. Light, I said. That's what you called me in your letter. Her smile trembled, because that's what you were to me. Outside, the rain started again. Soft, steady, forgiving. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. We stayed in that cafe until the afternoon light turned gold, spilling across the windows like honey. Naomi kept refilling her cup, though she'd stopped drinking it hours ago. Nervous habit, she said. Every time she reached for the sugar, her hands trembled just a little. I didn't know what you liked, she said shyly, motioning to the 2 cupcakes she'd brought. Chocolate or vanilla, so I brought both. I laughed softly. You remembered. I remember everything, she said, even things I shouldn't. Her eyes shimmered, full of stories she'd carried alone for too long. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. What was I like as a baby? Did I cry a lot? Did she ever almost come find me? But the words jammed in my throat. So instead I asked something simpler. Did you know them? My parents, I mean, Evelyn and Graham. Her face changed. Pain, guilt, something that looked like regret. Not until 6 years ago. I didn't know who adopted you, not officially. Then one day, Evelyn emailed me out of nowhere. She said she'd found my contact through the agency and wanted to update me. She sent a photo of you in a dance costume. I cried for an hour. She never told me, I whispered. She said you were shy, that you didn't like pictures, that you knew about me but didn't want contact yet. Naomi's voice dropped lower. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Every lie sounded like hope. I swallowed the lump in my throat. She controlled everything. Naomi nodded slowly. She wanted to keep you. I don't blame her for loving you, but I blame her for stealing the choice from both of us. I looked down at the cupcake. The frosting had started to melt into the paper wrapper. She said she was protecting me. She was protecting herself. Naomi's tone wasn't bitter, just tired. I think she loved you in her own way, but fear and love make terrible dance partners. We fell silent. Rain tapped the window rhythmically. Somewhere in the kitchen, a barista was humming to an old Taylor Swift song. Naomi reached across the table and took my hand. Her palm was rough, years of hard work and late nights, but her touch was steady. I don't want to take you away from anyone, she said. I just want to know you, whatever that looks like. I want that too. She smiled, and it was the kind of smile that warmed every cold part of me. When I finally stepped outside, the air smelled like wet earth and coffee beans. Dad was waiting in the car, pretending to scroll on his phone, but looking up every few seconds. When he saw me, he didn't ask anything, just studied my face like he was trying to memorize it. How was she? He asked quietly once I got in. She's real, I said. She's everything I thought I'd never have. He nodded, jaw tight. I'm glad you met her. As we drove home, the highway stretched endlessly ahead, and for the first time, it didn't scare me. Mom wasn't home when we returned. Her car was gone, her closet half empty, drawers left open like broken promises. She left? I asked. Dad's expression was unreadable. I think she needs time. Time for what? To come up with another version of the story? He sighed. Sloan, she's not evil. She stole from a woman who spent 6 years working 2 jobs just to help me, I cut in. If that's not evil, it's close enough. He didn't argue. Later that night, as I sat on my bed with the box of cards Naomi had given me, I heard the garage door open. Footsteps. The front door click shut. Then silence. I went downstairs and found Mom sitting at the kitchen table. Her makeup was gone, her eyes swollen. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Hi, she said softly. Hi. We stared at each other for a long time. Finally, she spoke. I know you met her. Yes. She told you everything, didn't she? She told me the truth. Mom laughed bitterly. Her version of it. No, I said. The truth you were too afraid to tell. Her eyes flashed with something sharp. You think you understand, but you don't. You were a sick baby, Sloan. Premature. You could barely breathe on your own. Do you know what it's like to sit beside an incubator and wonder if your child will make it through the night? I was the one who stayed. I was the one who held you when they took the tubes out, not her. I blinked, stunned by the sudden ferocity in her voice. She signed those papers, Mom continued, voice cracking. She gave you up, and I swore I would never let anyone take you from me, not the agency, not her, not even the truth. But she didn't give me up, I said quietly. She was told she had no choice. You knew that. I knew what I had to do, Mom said, her hands clenched together, knuckles white. We'd been through 8 years of miscarriages and dead ends. When I saw you in that hospital, I knew you were meant to be mine. So yes, I did whatever it took, even if it meant stealing her life savings. Mom's eyes filled with tears. That money was meant for you. I just repurposed it. We needed it for your school, your car, your home. No, I said, you needed it to feel like she didn't exist. The words hit her like a slap. She stared at me, silent, then whispered, You sound just like her. Maybe that's a good thing. She looked away. You don't know what it's like to want something so badly you'd destroy yourself to keep it. Maybe not, I said, but I know what it's like to lose something I never got to know. Her face crumpled. For a moment, she looked almost like the mother who used to braid my hair before school, the one who would whisper, You're my miracle when she thought I was asleep. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't say I forgave her. I wasn't ready for that yet. When she left the kitchen that night, the smell of her perfume lingered, faint and ghost-like, mixing with the scent of Naomi's letter still lying open on the counter. That was the last time Mom and I spoke for nearly a week. The following Saturday, Naomi called again. How are you? She asked. Trying to make sense of 2 mothers and 1 truth, I said. That's more than most people ever manage, she replied softly. Do you want to come up again? Maybe meet my family this time? Family? My brother Trevor. He's a chef in Seattle. My cousins. They've known about you for years. They all want to meet you, if you're ready. I thought about it for a long moment. I think I am. Good, she said, voice trembling with quiet joy, because they've already planned a barbecue. I laughed. That sounds terrifying. It'll be fine, she promised. You'll see. I hung up and looked at the photo from the envelope again, the one of baby me in Naomi's arms. Her eyes in that picture were the same as they'd been in the cafe. Hopeful, terrified, and still full of love. Maybe love wasn't just what we gave, but what survived in spite of everything. And somehow, against all odds, ours had survived 18 years of lies. When Sunday morning came, I woke to the sound of raised voices downstairs, Dad and Mom. The tone was sharp, exhausted. I stayed on the stairs, listening. You went through our savings to pay back Naomi? Mom's voice trembled. Do you have any idea what that does to us financially? Dad shot back. What it does to us? Evelyn, we've been living off stolen money. That's what it does. I took care of our family, she said. I made sure our daughter had everything. By taking from the woman who gave her life? How can you not see that? I stepped down 1 stair. The wood creaked under my heel, and both of them turned. The silence that followed was sharper than the shouting. Mom's face was pale, makeup half done, like she'd been getting ready to play the part of a woman who had it all together. You're awake, she said stiffly. Hard not to be, I said. Dad ran a hand through his hair. We're just arguing about who gets to be right, I finished for him. Like always. Mom crossed her arms. You don't understand, Sloan. I sacrificed everything for this family. I left my career. You stole someone's future, I said quietly. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had nothing to offer you. She had me, I snapped. And you took that away. Dad looked at her then, really looked at her. Evelyn, he said softly, I loved you for being fierce, but this isn't protection anymore. It's control. Mom's lip trembled. You think I'm a monster? No, I said. I think you're human and terrified. For a moment, I thought she'd cry. Instead, she turned and walked out the door. The house felt quieter after she left, but not peaceful, more like the air after lightning. That afternoon, Naomi texted me. Hey, Light, still want to come up next weekend? Trevor's making barbecue sauce that could start a religion. I smiled despite myself. Yes, I could use some religion right now. Dad read the message over my shoulder. You should go, he said. I'll handle things here. You sure? He nodded. It's time you had something good. Brookhaven was brighter the second time I saw it, maybe because I wasn't scared this time. Naomi picked me up at the bus stop, waving like she'd been doing it all my life. She smelled faintly of lemon soap and coffee grounds. You look lighter, she said as we hugged. I think I am. At her house, the yard was small but full of life. Flowers growing in mismatched pots, wind chimes made from old silverware, and a dog that barked exactly twice before deciding I was family. Inside, the kitchen was warm, filled with the sound of something sizzling. A man in an apron turned around with a grin. You must be Sloan. I'm Trevor, the brother who makes bad jokes and burns toast. Naomi rolled her eyes. Ignore him. He's proud of his disasters. The house smelled like barbecue sauce and cinnamon. There were photos everywhere, Naomi with friends, with coworkers, with people who clearly loved her. And now, for the first time, one of me. She'd printed a photo from our cafe meeting and put it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a cat. You did that fast, I teased. Couldn't wait, she said, smiling. I've waited 18 years already. Dinner was loud and messy. Trevor kept telling stories that made Naomi groan and cover her face. My cousins, 2 girls about my age, peppered me with questions about Seattle, my school, my favorite shows. At some point, Naomi squeezed my hand under the table. You okay? She whispered. I nodded. Better than okay. Later, when the others went inside for dessert, we sat on the porch, listening to crickets. The moonlight caught in Naomi's hair, silver streaks shining like threads of mercy. I should tell you something, she said, about Evelyn. I tensed. What about her? She contacted me again a few days after you called. She said she wanted to meet. My stomach twisted. And? I said yes. We met at a diner halfway between here and Seattle. Naomi's voice softened. She looked wrecked. I think she finally realized what she'd done. She met you without telling me? She wanted to apologize first, I think. She said she couldn't forgive herself unless she faced what she took from us. Naomi turned toward me. I told her I didn't hate her. I blinked. You didn't? She's part of you, and hating her would mean hating the years she gave you. I couldn't do that. My throat tightened. What did she say? Naomi smiled sadly. She said you used to hum in your sleep when you were little, and that every time you did, she thought it was your way of forgiving her. The night air thickened. I don't know if I'm ready for that. You don't have to be, Naomi said. Forgiveness isn't a deadline. It's a door you open when you're strong enough to walk through. We sat in silence for a while. Somewhere in the distance, someone lit fireworks, small bursts of red and gold against the dark. Will you come back next weekend? She asked. Yes, I said without hesitation. I want to meet everyone. I want to know everything. Her smile bloomed like dawn. Then we'll start there. When I got home Sunday night, Mom's car was back in the driveway. Inside, she was sitting on the couch, eyes red but steady. Dad was next to her, hands clasped. I met Naomi, she said quietly. She forgave me. I didn't sit, and that doesn't erase what you did. I know, she said, but I needed to tell you. I needed you to know I'm done lying. There was something different in her tone, not pride, not anger, just exhaustion. I've started therapy, she added, and I paid back what I could. The rest will take time. I looked at her for a long moment. That's something, I said finally. She nodded. I can't ask for forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll see that I loved you, even if I did it wrong. I already know that, I said. You just loved me in a way that hurt other people. Her eyes filled again, but she didn't cry. Thank you for saying that. I turned toward the stairs. Good night, Mom. Sloan? She called after me. Yeah? I saw the picture Naomi posted online. The one of you two. You look happy. I am, I said. For the first time, I really am. And I went upstairs, holding that truth like a fragile, glowing thing. The weeks that followed moved both too fast and painfully slow, like time itself didn't know which side it was on. Mom started therapy, just like she said. Dad kept his distance at first, then began joining her for family sessions every Thursday evening. Sometimes I'd come home to find them sitting together on the porch, not speaking, just breathing the same air like it was practice. I was still living mostly out of bags, half my things at home, half at Naomi's. My life was split between two kitchens, two histories, two women who loved me in entirely different languages. Naomi's house smelled like cinnamon and dog shampoo. Every morning, she'd hand me a mug of coffee that said, "You are enough," in faded letters. Mom's house smelled like bleach and stale flowers. She'd started cooking again, always too much food, like feeding me could fix something deeper. I was learning that love could be both real and wrong. One afternoon, I found Dad in the garage sorting through boxes labeled documents. He looked up when he heard me. "You want to help?" I sat cross-legged beside him on the concrete floor. Dust motes drifted in the sunlight like tiny ghosts. "I'm getting the financial stuff together," he said. "The restitution payments for Naomi. Your mother's still covering most of it, but I wanted to check everything." He handed me a folder. Inside were copies of wire transfers, payment confirmations, and one manila envelope, the original one. "Keep it," he said. "It's part of your story now." I traced my name, Sloan Avery Chen, the way it was written on those documents. The letters didn't sting anymore. They felt earned. "Dad," I asked quietly, "how did you not know?" He exhaled slowly. "Because I wanted to believe your mother. I told myself 100 stories that made it easier to stay blind." "You could have asked questions." "I could have," he admitted, "but sometimes love is just cowardice dressed as trust." His honesty hit me harder than I expected. "Do you regret marrying her?" He looked at me for a long moment. "No, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have you, and I'd rather live with my mistakes than without you." The words settled between us like something holy. A few days later, Naomi invited me to spend the summer at her place. "We could make it official," she said over the phone. "Call it your second home." I said yes before she even finished asking. Moving in was surreal, like unpacking into an alternate version of my own life. Naomi had cleared out a spare room for me. The walls were painted soft yellow, sunlight pooling across the bed. She'd even hung fairy lights around the window. On the dresser sat a photo of me as a baby, the same one from the manila envelope, only this time it wasn't evidence, it was memory. We fell into a rhythm. Morning coffee, evening walks with the dog, Baxter, who adored stealing my socks. Saturday grocery runs where Naomi always forgot the list, but somehow remembered everything important. Sometimes she'd tell stories about my grandparents, the ones I never met, how her mother used to hum while cooking, how her father built her a treehouse that leaned but never fell. "You have her eyes," she said one night as we washed dishes. "Your grandmother's. They were always a little sad, but never gave up on seeing beauty." I smiled. "Guess it runs in the family." She laughed, bumping my shoulder with hers. "That's right, the stubborn optimism gene." Meanwhile, Mom started calling again. Not every day, just enough to remind me she was still trying. The first few times, I let it ring out. Then one evening, I picked up. "Hi, Mom." The line was quiet for a few seconds before she spoke. "I saw your graduation photos on Naomi's page." I braced for jealousy, but instead her voice was soft. "You looked happy." "I am," I said carefully. "I'm glad." There was a pause. "Would you maybe come by for dinner next week? Just us?" I hesitated. "Okay." When I got there, she'd made my favorite, baked salmon with lemon butter. She'd even set the table like she used to when I was little, candles and all. "I wanted to start over," she said. "Not erase things, just start where we are now." We ate mostly in silence, but it wasn't angry silence. It was a silence learning to breathe again. At the end of the meal, she slid an envelope across the table. "This is for you." Inside was a receipt, the final restitution payment. "It's done," she said. "Everything I owed Naomi is repaid." "That's good," I said, then paused. "But you don't owe me anything, Mom. Not money, just honesty." Tears filled her eyes. "I can do that." Summer rolled on. Naomi taught me how to cook her mother's dumplings, how to prune the stubborn roses in her yard, how to let grief take its time. Sometimes Dad would visit, bringing boxes of old photos for her to copy, pictures of me growing up, birthdays, school plays. She'd look at them like they were treasures from another world. "This one," she said one day, holding a picture of my 7th birthday. This is the smile I always imagined. I laughed. It's mostly frosting. Still counts. And just like that, something inside me healed a little more. By the end of the summer, I decided to stay in town for college. Naomi cried when I told her. Happy tears, she promised. I get to keep you close this time. Mom took the news better than I expected. You'll do great, she said over the phone. Tell Naomi, thank you for everything. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something that looked like peace from a distance. The day I moved into my dorm, Dad hugged me tight. You've got 2 families now, he said. Make them proud, both of them. I will, I said. And as I unpacked my things, I placed 2 framed photos on my desk, one of me and Naomi at the cafe where it all began, and one of Mom and Dad, taken years ago before the lies took root. Because this was the truth, all of it. Messy, imperfect, still standing. Love wasn't about choosing one family over another. It was about learning to live in the space between both and letting the light in. College life started with the usual chaos. Lost room keys, mismatched bedding, too many orientation flyers. But I carried a quiet steadiness inside me. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in someone else's version of my story. Naomi called every evening that first week, her voice warm and unhurried. You eating real food or surviving on vending machines? Depends on your definition of real, I joked. She laughed the way she always did when she caught me deflecting with humor. You sound okay, she said. I am, I answered, and I meant it. Mom texted sometimes too. Little things. Saw your old dance teacher today. She says hi. Or sent your winter coat in the mail. Every message ended with love you. I didn't always reply, but I always read them. Dad visited on weekends, dropping off homemade granola bars and real coffee he swore was better than the campus cafe sludge. The first time he came, he brought Naomi too. Watching them talk felt surreal. 2 people who had every reason to hate each other, sitting under the same campus oak tree, trading polite smiles. They talked about me the way proud parents do, each claiming different victories. Naomi bragged about my compassion. Dad bragged about my focus. Neither of them was wrong. After they left, Naomi hugged me tight. I never got to send you off to school before, she said. This is a do-over I didn't know I needed. By mid-semester, the chaos of discovery had settled into something steady. Calls, visits, therapy, classwork. I majored in social work, which felt like both rebellion and redemption. You're going to save other families from what we went through, Naomi said once, eyes glistening. Or at least help them write a better ending, I replied. Mom was trying too. She sent photos from her therapy journal sometimes, quotes circled in red ink, notes scribbled in the margins. One of them said, "Control is not love, it's fear wearing its best clothes." I stared at it for a long time before replying, "That's a good start, Mom." Months passed, then a year. I grew into my own name, both of them. Professors knew me as Sloane Avery. Naomi's side of the family called me Sloane Chen, and for once, it didn't feel like I was split down the middle. It felt like I was finally whole. The summer after my first year, Dad called with news. Your mom's been approved to establish that scholarship she mentioned, the one using the restitution money. She's really doing it? She said it's the least she can do, for you, for Naomi, for herself. The scholarship was for students from single-parent homes, kids whose lives had cracked open early, like mine. Mom named it the Light Fund. When she told me why, her voice wavered. Because that's what she called you, she said. Light. I think it's time I started seeing you that way too. Graduation day 2 years later was the first time all of them stood in the same place. Naomi and her husband David on one side, Dad next to Mom on the other. It should have been uncomfortable. It was. But it was also strangely right. When the ceremony ended, Naomi approached Mom in the parking lot. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt heavy with all the years they'd stolen from each other. Then Naomi said quietly, "Thank you." Mom blinked. For what? For taking care of her when I couldn't, Naomi said. For loving her, even if you got lost doing it. Mom's eyes filled. She's amazing because of you. No, Naomi replied gently. She's amazing because she found a way to love us both. They didn't hug. They didn't have to. Some wounds don't close with grand gestures. They close with understanding. Later that night, the house was full of noise and light. My 2 families sat around Naomi's backyard table, plates of food everywhere, conversation overlapping like music. Trevor joked about how I burned the barbecue chicken. Mom laughed louder than I'd heard in years. Dad looked 10 years younger. Even Naomi seemed freer, less careful, less afraid she might lose me again. I looked around the table and realized this was the family I'd fought for. Not perfect, but honest. Not whole, but healing. Naomi caught my eye from across the table and mouthed, "Light." I smiled. She was right. I wasn't a secret anymore, or a debt, or a lie someone had to protect. I was the proof that love, even broken, messy, human love, could survive almost anything. Years later, when people ask about my family, I don't hesitate anymore. I have two mothers, I tell them. One who raised me and one who found me again. They usually look confused, waiting for me to pick a side. But there isn't one. There's just the truth, the kind that holds both pain and grace in the same hand. And maybe that's what growing up really means. Realizing that love doesn't erase the past. It learns to live beside it. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story too.